Let's be honest, most of us have way too much stuff at home. Over the years, it just piles up, doesn't it? Every drawer, every shelf, every storage box, they all seem to have something we might need someday. And then, one day, you look around and think, where did all this come from? It can feel overwhelming and, honestly, exhausting even before you start. The truth is, clearing out a home full of memories isn't just about space, it's about emotions too. There's guilt, there's attachment, and sometimes there's fear of losing a piece of the past. That's why so many people put it off. But here's the thing, letting go doesn't mean losing the past. It means creating space for the life you want now, the one that feels light and easy instead of heavy and cluttered. So today, I want to share something that really works, a way to clear your home quickly without that horrible burnout or the nagging guilt. You're going to feel lighter, and I promise, it's not about tossing everything into trash bags. It's about smart decisions, tiny steps, and a few tricks that make it surprisingly simple. But before we start, just for fun, and to keep this community feeling cozy, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I'm always curious. It's amazing how many places people tune in from. Now, let me ask you something else. Have you ever opened a drawer, stared at the contents, and thought, I don't even know where to start? That's the #1 reason people give up. They think decluttering means tackling the entire room in one day. But here's a little secret. The big mistake is trying to do too much at once. Long cleaning marathons sound great in theory, but most of us just don't have the energy for that anymore. And honestly, even if we did, it's mentally exhausting. Instead, we're going to work smart, not hard. And the first thing I want you to do is forget the idea that you have to finish a room in one go. That's the old way. The new way, little bursts of effort that add up, and no guilt when you stop. Let's start with the kitchen because, trust me, it's the easiest place to build momentum. Kitchens don't usually carry the heavy emotional weight that, say, old letters or photo albums do. Plus, it's full of practical stuff, and practical is easier to sort through. Here's how we're going to start. Set a timer for just 15 minutes. That's it. 15 minutes, not a second longer. When the timer goes off, you stop, even if you're in the middle of something. I know, that sounds counterintuitive, but there's a reason for it. Most people can only make emotional decisions for about 10 minutes before they start feeling drained. After that, everything feels hard. So, short sessions are your best friend here. In that 15 minutes, you're going to do something called the triage method. It's quick, it's simple, and it's surprisingly freeing. You're going to divide everything you touch into 3 categories. The first is, can't live without it. These are your true essentials, the things you use all the time and can't imagine functioning without. The second is, might need it someday. You know this pile, it's the just-in-case stuff. And here's the truth about that. If you haven't needed it yet, chances are you won't. Honestly, might need it someday is just fear talking. And the third category is haven't used in over a year. If it's been sitting there collecting dust for 12 months or more, it's practically begging to leave. Now, here's the twist. That second category, the might need pile, that's clutter. It feels safe, but it's the reason your cabinets are overflowing. So we're going to be ruthless with that one. Let me give you a real example. Say you open your kitchen drawer and find 3 can openers. 3. Why? Because the first one got a little dull, you bought a new one, and then someone gave you another as a gift. Sound familiar? In reality, you only need one good one, so keep the best and let the others go. This works for everything: duplicate spatulas, extra baking pans, gadgets you bought thinking they'd change your life, but now just live in the back of a cupboard. Be honest with yourself. If it's been sitting there unused for a year, you don't need it, and don't overthink it. The point of this method is speed. No analyzing. No, what if someday? Quick decisions only. That's how you stay ahead of the mental fatigue. By the way, if you're enjoying these tips, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next ones. I've got some really clever tricks coming up that make the whole process so much easier. Here's another little mindset shift that helps. Duplicates don't add value. 2 is okay for some things, like spatulas if you cook a lot. But 12? That's not helpful. That's clutter. And clutter steals your space, your time, and honestly, your peace of mind. Once you start doing this in the kitchen, you'll feel a little spark of energy. You'll see progress without feeling like you just ran a marathon. And that feeling is what keeps you going. So here's what I want you to do after you finish this video. Pick one drawer or one shelf, just one, and give yourself that 15-minute triage test. I promise you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish in such a short time. And if you're thinking, well, what about sentimental stuff? Don't worry, we're going to talk about that. There are ways to handle it without tears and regret. But first, we've got to build that momentum, and the kitchen is where it starts. Now, before we move on, tell me, what's the one thing in your kitchen you know you have too many of? Mugs? Storage containers? Those plastic lids that never seem to match anything? Drop it in the comments. I love hearing these. Okay, so you've got your triage method and your 15-minute rule. But how do you keep it from feeling like a chore? That's what I'm going to share next. All right, now that you've got the basic idea of short, focused sessions and the triage method, let's make this even easier to stick with. Because honestly, anyone can start decluttering. It's staying motivated that's the hard part. One of the best tricks is to break things down even smaller than you think. When I say kitchen, most people imagine the whole room. But for this system to work, you're not doing an entire room. You're doing one drawer, one shelf, one cabinet. That's it. Why? Because finishing something, anything, feels amazing. It gives you a little hit of accomplishment, and that's what keeps you coming back for more. So here's the rule. When the timer goes off, you stop, even if you feel like doing more. I know that sounds strange, but trust me on this. The minute you start pushing past your energy limit, you turn decluttering into a chore, and the next time, you'll dread it. Instead, stop while you're still feeling good. That way, you actually look forward to the next session. Now, let's talk about energy. Most people never think about this part, but it's the secret to avoiding burnout. I like to use something I call the energy investment scale. Picture a scale from 1 to 10. 10 is the big stuff that really matters to you emotionally. 1 is the things you couldn't care less about. You only want to spend energy on the 10s. Those are your family heirlooms, your favorite recipes, your most loved books. Everything else, it shouldn't drain you. If you find yourself feeling anxious or guilty about a cracked mixing bowl, remind yourself, it's a 1. It doesn't deserve your emotional energy. And while we're on the topic of the kitchen, let's do a little reality check. How many expired spices do you think are hiding in your cabinet right now? Go ahead, take a guess. If you're like most people, at least half of them are old enough to have seen 3 different presidents. And here's the thing. Keeping expired food doesn't make us thrifty. It makes the kitchen harder to use. So while you're doing your 15-minute session, toss those without hesitation. Same with old condiments, mystery jars, and anything you can't even remember buying. Oh, and here's a quick win that feels amazing. Clear the countertops. Even if you don't touch the cabinets today, just giving yourself a clear, open counter makes the whole kitchen feel organized. So if you've got a blender, a toaster, a coffee maker, and about 5 random jars all lined up, pick the 1 or 2 you use every day and tuck the rest away. Or better yet, donate what you don't love. Now, this isn't just about the kitchen. Once you've done a few short sessions there and built some momentum, you can apply the same method anywhere. The bathroom is another great spot because most of that stuff isn't sentimental. Do you really need 3 half-empty bottles of shampoo you don't even like? Probably not. And while you're working, remember this. You're not just making space, you're making life easier. Every duplicate spatula, every unused gadget is one more thing you have to dig past to find what you really need. And that steals time and energy every single day. Another tip I swear by: pair decluttering with something enjoyable. Make yourself a cup of tea before you start. Put on your favorite playlist or an audiobook. That way, the session feels like a little break for you, not another chore on the list. And don't forget, breaks. Take a breather between sessions, even if it's just sitting down with a snack or flipping through a magazine for 5 minutes. It resets your brain so you come back refreshed instead of drained. Now, let's deal with one of the most common mental traps: the "what if I need it someday" excuse. I hear this all the time. People hang on to 3 extra sets of mixing bowls because what if they host a big dinner? Or 5 old cell phones because, honestly, I don't even know why we keep those. Here's a reality check that changed everything for me. 90% of those just-in-case items cost less than $20 to replace. Meanwhile, they've been costing you years of stress and taking up valuable space. So the next time you catch yourself thinking, "But what if someday?" I want you to flip it and ask, what would it cost me to replace this if I actually needed it? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is not much. That one question will help you let go of so much stuff guilt-free. Speaking of guilt, another trick is to take the pressure off donations. You don't have to haul everything to the perfect charity tomorrow. Keep a donation box in a corner, and every time you finish a session, drop in what you don't need. When the box is full, that's when you deal with it. No rush, no stress. And if you're thinking, "This sounds doable, but I'm still not sure about the emotional stuff," that's okay. We're getting to that. There's a way to handle sentimental items without feeling like you're erasing your history. But first, let's keep building this foundation. You've got the triage method, the 15-minute rule, the energy scale, and now the replacement reality check for the just-in-case items. Put those together, and you'll be shocked at how much space you free up without a single meltdown. Before I forget, if you haven't already, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Because the next part is where we tackle the mental side of clutter. And honestly, that's the part most people struggle with the most. Now imagine this. You walk into your kitchen tomorrow, and the counters are clear, the drawers open without getting stuck, and you can actually see the back of your shelves. How good would that feel? That's what's waiting for you if you start small and keep going. And trust me, the more you let go, the lighter you feel. Not just in your home, but in your head. And we're just getting started. Now that you've got some space cleared and a system that feels doable, let's talk about the real challenge, the emotional side of clutter. Because if we're being honest, this is where most people get stuck. It's not the spatulas and expired spices, it's the things that tug at your heart. Clutter isn't just physical, it's emotional. Every item has a little story attached, and those stories can make us hesitate. But here's what I want you to remember. Keeping something doesn't mean you love the memory more, and letting it go doesn't erase the memory. The memory lives in you, not in the object. So, how do you make decisions when everything feels important? I've got 3 tricks that make it so much easier. The first one is something I call the stranger test. Here's how it works. Pick up an item and ask yourself, if a stranger walked in right now, would they understand why I'm keeping this? If the answer is no, that's your sign. Because usually, the only reason we hold on to those things is guilt, not love. And guilt is not a good reason to fill your home with stuff. Let me give you an example. Say you're holding on to a sweater that was a gift, but it doesn't fit and you never wear it. You're keeping it because you don't want to feel ungrateful. But a stranger wouldn't look at that sweater and say, "Ah, clearly this represents deep gratitude." No, they'd just see a sweater that takes up space. That's when you know it's okay to let it go. The second trick is called the replacement reality check. This one kills the "just in case" excuse dead in its tracks. Before you keep something, ask yourself, could I replace this if I really needed it? How much would it cost? And have I used it in the last 5 years? If the answer is yes, you could replace it, and no, you haven't used it, then you know it's safe to let it go. You'd be shocked how many things fall into that category. Old electronics, extra linens, kitchen gadgets you swore you'd use but never did. If you ever actually need them again, chances are you can find one for under $20, and by then, it'll probably be a better version anyway. And then there's the third test, which I think is the most powerful of all, the future self-test. This one gets to the heart of why we keep so much stuff. Pick up an item and ask, does this serve the person I am becoming, or does it keep me stuck in the past? That question changes everything, because clutter often represents old versions of us, the hobbies we thought we'd love, the clothes we thought we'd fit back into, the stacks of books we swore we'd read. But if those things don't fit your life now, they're just holding you back. Let me tell you, when I first tried this, it stopped me cold in my tracks. I had this stack of cookbooks, beautiful, heavy books full of complicated recipes, and I realized the person I am now? She's not making soufflés on a Tuesday night. She wants simple, easy meals. So why was I hanging on to those books? They weren't for my future self. They were for a past version of me that doesn't exist anymore. Once I saw that, it was so much easier to let them go. Now, I know what you might be thinking. That's all great for everyday stuff, but what about sentimental items? That's the big one, isn't it? Things like old letters, family photos, your kids' artwork, maybe even items that belonged to someone you loved and lost. Those things carry real emotions, and we can't just toss them in a box and move on. Here's what helps. Limit. Don't eliminate. You don't need to keep every piece of artwork your child ever made. Pick a few favorites, the ones that really make you smile, and let the rest go. You can even take photos of the ones you release so the memory stays without the clutter. For photos, same idea. You don't need 5 blurry pictures of the same event. Keep the best one, the one that tells the story, and let the duplicates go. If you've got boxes of pictures that haven't seen the light of day in decades, set aside time to sort and keep only what truly matters. And when it comes to belongings from a spouse or someone you loved who's passed, this is where the future self-test is powerful again. Ask, which pieces truly bring me comfort or joy, and which ones just weigh me down with guilt or sadness? Keep the first category, and let the others go with gratitude. And speaking of gratitude, Here's another trick that makes letting go easier. Thank the item before you release it. I know it sounds a little silly, but it works. You pick it up and say, "Thank you for serving me when I needed you." Then you let it go. That tiny moment of closure keeps guilt from creeping in. Now, if you're listening to this and thinking, "I'm ready to try these," here's what I suggest. Start small. Don't jump into the hardest category first. Begin with something that feels manageable, like old t-shirts or extra kitchen gadgets. Build your confidence before you tackle the deeply sentimental things. And one more thing before we move on. Don't do this alone if you don't have to. Sometimes having a friend or family member nearby makes all the difference, not to make decisions for you, but to keep you company and remind you it's okay to let go. Once you start using these mindset shifts, the stranger test, the replacement check, the future self question, you'll notice something incredible. Decluttering stops feeling like punishment. It becomes a choice, a gift you're giving yourself. And honestly, it feels amazing. Because when you clear out the things that no longer fit your life, you're making space for what does fit, for who you are now and who you want to be next. And that's worth so much more than holding on to a broken lamp or a box of outdated electronics. Now, there's one more piece of the puzzle I want to share with you, because this last part is what truly takes away the fear of regret. And once you learn it, you'll never look at decluttering the same way again. Here's the thing about regret. It's the #1 reason people keep things they don't need. We tell ourselves, "What if I miss it later? What if I make a mistake?" That fear can stop you in your tracks. But what if I told you there's a way to let go without that heavy feeling in your chest? It's called creating closure. Instead of just tossing things in a donation bag, you give yourself a little moment of gratitude and respect before saying goodbye. And trust me, it makes all the difference. One of my favorite techniques is a simple thank you ritual. When you pick up an item you've decided to release, pause and say, "Thank you for what you gave me." It might sound a little corny, but it works because it shifts your mindset from guilt to gratitude. You're not throwing something away. You're honoring it and then moving on. Another great trick is taking a photo of the item before you let it go. This is especially helpful for sentimental things, like a piece of furniture that's been in the family for years, or a stack of your kids' school projects. You keep the memory, but you free yourself from the physical weight of the object. And if you have a big category to go through, like boxes of old photos or keepsakes, make it a celebration. Pour yourself a favorite drink, put on some good music, and call it a memory day. Share stories if someone's with you. Reminisce, laugh, even cry if you need to, and then choose what stays with care. Everything else gets released with love, not guilt. Now, for the extra special things, like items that belonged to a spouse or someone dear to you, consider having a little love ceremony. Light a candle, hold the items, and let yourself feel everything. Then ask, which pieces truly bring me peace and happiness now? Keep those. The rest, you thank and release. It sounds small, but this process helps so much because you're giving those memories the respect they deserve before letting them go. Here's something else that helps with big decisions. Remember that not everything needs to stay in physical form. If you're struggling to let go of something because you love the memory attached, write that memory down in a notebook or record it in a voice memo. That way, the story lives on, even if the item doesn't. Now, I want to talk about books for a second, because this one is sneaky. A lot of us hold on to shelves and shelves of books because they feel like part of our identity. But ask yourself, am I going to read this again? Does this book make me happy just by being here? If the answer is no, it's time to pass it on. And here's a sweet touch. You can slip a little thank you note to the author inside before donating. Imagine the joy for the next person who finds that book. Same goes for clothes. If your closet is stuffed with outfits you haven't worn in years, remind yourself, those clothes could be making someone else feel amazing right now, instead of sitting in the dark doing nothing. Keep what fits, what flatters, and what makes you feel good today. Everything else? Let it go with kindness. And don't forget about those just-in-case pieces of furniture, the extra chairs in the garage, the dining table you've been saving for a holiday gathering that hasn't happened in 10 years. Be honest. If you ever need it, you can rent it or borrow it. Meanwhile, that space could be open and calm instead of crowded. By now, you might be feeling something you haven't felt in a long time. Hope. Because when you do this right, you're not just getting rid of stuff. You're creating space for life to feel easier, calmer, and more enjoyable. You walk into a room and it feels light instead of heavy. That's what all of this is about. And here's the best part. You don't lose your past when you declutter. You keep the memories, the stories, the people you love. All of that stays in your heart. What you're losing is the weight of things you no longer need. You're gaining space, clarity, and energy for what's ahead. So the next time you're holding something and hesitating, ask yourself, does this serve me now? Does this fit the life I want to live? If not, let it go with gratitude. Because the truth is, your home should support you, not stress you out. If this has inspired you, go ahead and start small today. One drawer, one box, one shelf. You don't need a whole weekend or a whole house. Just start and watch how good it feels. And before you go, if you found these tips helpful, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more. I've got plenty of practical ideas coming your way to keep your home feeling peaceful and organized. Now take a deep breath, look around, and imagine what your space will feel like when it finally matches the life you want now. That feeling? That's what we're working toward. And you deserve it.